Hi, it's Mark Owen from Moose Marketing and PR, the editor of Punchline Magazine, and welcome to Punchline Talks. Today I'm with Peter Barrett, the Group Property Manager for South Gloucestershire and Stroud College Group. Welcome to Punchline Talks, Pete.
It's Pete Barrett.
Pete Barrett. I always get everybody's names wrong. Sorry, Pete. Anyway, can you tell us what your role there is, please, at Gloucestershire College?
So the college group includes SGS College. It's got a campus at Stroud and also campuses in Bristol, and also SGS Academy Trust, which has schools in Cinderford and Berkeley, and also down in Bristol. And also I run the Gloucestershire Science and Technology Park at Berkeley. So my main job is running the Science and Technology Park here, and that's what we're mainly going to talk about today.
Now, have you always been here, or did you work for somebody else before? Was it Bruton Knowles or something, years and years ago?
Yeah, so I've been a chartered surveyor since sort of 1999, where I started with Bruton Knowles locally in Gloucester. Then I went to work for Bristol for a company there for a while. And one of the jobs that came along was to try and find someone to take over an empty nuclear power station at Berkeley for the Nuclear Decommissioning Authority. So I got involved with that. Had a fairly empty site, nothing really much going on. And we tried to find various people to move into it. And eventually I found SGS College, who were looking for a new engineering site. Sold them part of the site, sold them the rest of the site, and then they turned around and said, well, if it's so good, why don't you deliver it for us? So 5 years ago, they offered me a job, and I came down here to deliver the Science and Technology Park at Berkeley.
So how many students do you have there, and what kind of stuff do they do at the moment?
Well, there's a whole range of things happening down here. So there's on the learning and skills side, we have the UTC, which is the University Technical College, which is a school effectively, where you've got sort of 300, 400 students, all of which you specialise in either engineering or cyber and digital skills. You've also got the college's apprentices working in engineering, and then you've also got people like University of Gloucestershire, Gloucestershire Police, and a new school through Aurora, the Sevenside school here, all delivering their own education and training on other parts of the site. So in total, we're probably 600, 800 people on site at the moment.
Wow, and there's lots of different types of businesses on there as well, isn't it? I mean, I've been to the Sparina Centre, it's amazing new police set up there. Could you explain about what else is on the site, please?
Yeah, so we've got those sort of learning and skills related uses, a lot of which are sort of public sector related, but we've also got companies coming in, investing in science and technology and innovation, particularly around low carbon. So two of the biggest ones at the moment are Green Fuels, who do research into biofuel. They've got a charter, a royal charter with Prince Charles, etc., for producing biofuel. They do research into biofuels, turning any sort of carbon-related product into a biofuel diesel. They're also looking at biofuel diesel being turned into aviation fuel and a heavy marine fuel. They do research and manufacturing here. And we've also got the Active Building Centre, who are the big investment here at the moment, who are a company set up by Swansea University to take low carbon technologies, particularly around energy and heating systems, etc., explore them, research them, develop them, and turn them into mass market solutions to try and decarbonise the country. And we've also got several other sort of smaller businesses here as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's such a wide variety. I mean, you've got Cavendish Nuclear as well. Who are they?
So Cavendish Nuclear are part of Babcock Group, and they're one of the sort of founder tenants of the site. So they do metrology and dosimetry calibration testing for the nuclear industry. So they actually have small nuclear sources on site, and then they calibrate instruments like Geiger counters, etc., for the NHS and for other people in the nuclear industry around the country. So they've got 30 or 40 really well-trained scientists and engineers down there in a really great business, part of, say, Babcock Group, which is one of the biggest engineering companies in the world.
So how many people are actually on the site working?
So I think we're probably now up to about 800 or so in total. It depends how you treat the students as well, and whether, you know, how many employees, how many students, but that's where we probably are. But the site itself used to employ about 2,500 people back when it was the National Nuclear Laboratories for the whole of the country, associated with the Majnox nuclear power stations. So back then it was just a hotbed of science and technology, research assistants, engineering people, etc. That sort of all tailed away during the 90s and the early 2000s, and it's our job to try and bring it back. And we're well on track, about 5 years into getting the site back to as busy as it was before, and being basically recycled into a new science and technology centre built around low carbon skills and training.
And what sort of space have you still got available there, and what type of businesses are you looking to attract?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. So we're not sitting here with a sort of terrace of industrial units or a big office building. We've got all sorts of things that came from nuclear power stations. So I've got a former nuclear reactor, I've got a former fire station, I've got engineering buildings, I've got office buildings, I've got former sort of labs and lab spaces, all sorts of them. And they're all in various different states of condition and repair. We've had 5 or 6 big refurbishment projects, which have ended up with the big occupiers like Sabrina Centre and University of Gloucestershire and the Active Building Centre. But we're now also looking to bring those other buildings back into use and have those sort of refurbished as well, so that they're ready for people to occupy. So the next part of the job is getting those other older buildings recycled back into use, getting them into modern condition so that we can attract new businesses. Science and technology and laboratory space will want to be one of our big elements, but low carbon technology is the key point.
Now, you're not, to be honest about it, you're slightly tucked away there at Berkeley. Is that a help or is it a hindrance?
No, I always tell people we're not. I always shout at people when they say we're tucked away here. We're 12 minutes from one motorway junction and 15 minutes from another. So that doesn't sound tucked away to me. It's low. It's really easy to get here. There's no traffic. It's really easy flow. I mean, if you went down to sort of Aztec West, for instance, it could take you 30 minutes to get off the motorway junction into the middle of Aztec West. Just because we're in a beautiful bit of countryside by the river doesn't mean that we're sort of tucked away. So for people who know how to get here, it's a great drive. It's really easy to get to. There's 1,000 car parking spaces, no problem with parking. It's just a matter of sort of knowing where you're heading. Basically, you turn left off the A38 towards Berkeley and carry on going before you get wet.
I've got to admit, it is absolutely fantastic down there. I've been there in the evening as well, and you know, with the 7 right next to it as well. You've got a cafe and a restaurant there as well, haven't you? If I remember rightly.
Yeah, so the cafe and restaurant overlook the river. They've got amazing views over the river. And what we're finding is a lot of things have happened and changed during COVID. And people aren't looking at an office as being just a place where you can just sit and work at your computer. You need something more. So people are being attracted by the fact you can be here, go to the canteen, overlook the river, go for a walk down along the Severn Way. You can go all the way down to the bridges at one end. You can carry on all the way up into North Wales if you wanted to. The Severn Way is 277 miles long, and just get out about, have that sort of break for your own mental health. And we've got a really attractive campus environment here, which a lot of business parks aren't able to provide.
Pete, fantastic to talk to you. Thanks ever so much for joining Punchline Talks today.
Thanks a lot.